Hola ProGuides familia, welcome back to another Wild Rift video. Me llamo Rafa. Today we're doing something a little different, but totally fun. Today we are going to be comparing all the currently released champions of Wild Rift and ranking them on how powerful they are according to their lore. In this list, we're going to be looking through the lore provided from universe.leagueoflegends.com for the most accurate and consistent data. Unfortunately, all the lore from the League of Legends cinematics do not line up with the character's real-life feats. For example, Garen can't actually summon a giant magical sword from the heavens to slay his enemies like he does in the cinematics and in-game. We're not using any in-game stats to measure how strong each of these champions are practically, but instead we look through the stories of each champion trying to determine whose story ranks them the top dog in Wild Rift. Before we go any further, let's look at our question of the day. Do you know or care about Wild Rift lore? For me personally, coming from League of Legends, I'm not the biggest lore buff, but I love how much effort and time Riot goes into with the storytelling aspect about building the narratives of these characters. But that's just my opinion. I want to see how it stacks up against your responses in the comment section below. To start this tier list, I'm going to need to briefly explain power scaling and its relevance to this list. Power scaling is the act of comparing feats of usually fictional characters or monsters against the feats of other similar fictional creations. Power scaling is popular amongst comic book and anime communities to compare their favorite characters against each other. One of my favorite YouTube channels that I grew up with who has finalized this idea is Death Battle, where they take well-known characters like Toph, Gara, Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, Thor, Raiden, and have them fight it out to the death in a super kick-ass cinematic display. This method of measurement is relevant to this video because most of the champions are being compared against other champions according to their feats of strength, feats of durability, or by their feats of magic alongside what they could bring to a fight. I won't be able to justify every single character's placement on the list, but I will highlight the most noteworthy choices from every tier. We're going to start from the D tier and work our way up to see who is truly the strongest champion according to their lore. Some of the weakest champions in the game according to their lore are Gragas and Draven. Gragas would never throw his valuable Graggy Ice Barrel like he does in the game, and especially wouldn't let it explode on other champions. That's just a waste of good booze. Gragas has no offensive capabilities in his lore. Instead, he just simply drinks his Graggy Ice from a barrel with a shard of True Ice inside of it. True Ice is a magical rune that keeps refilling Gragas' barrel while he drinks from it. This has given him some magical resistances and increased his body size, but that's just it. No special weapon training or magical spells for this giant drunkard. Now, let's talk about Draven. You see in game, Draven is known for his powerful auto attacks and catching axes, but unfortunately in real life, axes don't just come flying back to their owner after they are thrown. So Draven has two throwable weapons that he has to pick up after every throw. He's literally disarming himself in a fight and has only been victorious because Noxians win battles by outnumbering their enemies instead of having more skill or magic. But Rafa, Draven does it all. No, Draven, that's cap. But a champion with plenty of magic and no skill, also on our D tier list, is Nami. Nami was chosen by our people to wield the title of Tidecaller. The Tidecaller position as one of the mermaids dive deep into the abyss to find an abyssal pearl to trade with a Targonian for a moonstone. Nami did her job, dove deep into the abyssal wrist, and retrieved the abyssal pearl. However, when she reached the surface, no Targonian came to exchange the moonstone with her. So sad. Now Nami is exploring Runeterra looking for someone to trade her abyssal pearl for a moonstone. Now, the others in this tier are weak compared to the grand list of League of Legends champions, but they can still take on one or two more people on their own. Misfortune and Jinx are experienced with their weapons, but at the end of the day, they're just two mortal human beings. These two rank below other gun wielders like Jhin or Lucian because of their lack of expertise or special training. Lucian spent his life fighting monsters in the Shadow Isles, while Misfortune bounty hunted drunk sailors in Bilgewater. These experiences are just too different to be put on the same tier list. The C tier list are for champions that can take on multiple opponents and have some more experience than the last tier. Here, we will find most of the trained soldiers in Wild Rift. Jarvan IV leads his crew of Fiora, Garen, and Xin Zhao, all of whom are highly accomplished soldiers in the Demacian ranks. Fiora, Garen, and Jarvan all come from high-ranking noble families in Demacia and have dedicated themselves to the flag and to fight against almost all magic users. Garen later becomes completely devastated when he learns that his sister Lux is indeed a mage. But Demacia's fear for magic is not unfounded. These great soldiers are ranked in the same tier as the little fire demon herself, Annie. Annie is ranked on this tier list because of the untapped potential of her dormant power. She's still a young girl, but she's able to summon a fire bear named Tibbers whenever she wants to. This is her power as a small child. Imagine her potential in the future as an adult. She'll be as powerful as Syndra or Lux. C tier is also where many low-ranking mages are placed from their respective lore. Ahri has powerful magic that can read people's memories, but that doesn't help her on the battlefield. Ezreal has a magical gauntlet, but he himself is an archaeologist, not even trying to learn magic. The only mage that maybe should be ranked lower is Twisted Fate, but he maintains his C ranking because of his ability to teleport. In the lore, Twisted Fate is able to escape any jail in one night and is shown to disappear in front of a crowd. Either Graves is running and shooting smoke screens everywhere Twisted Fate disappears from, or he is teleporting away like he does in the game. Xayah and Rakan are a powerful duo that keeps enemies confused and outmatched with their synchronized teamwork. Together, they form a team that rivals most trained soldiers, but their unity would not be able to stop most of the threats coming out of the B tier. Now, ProGuides Familia, we've come to an interesting intersection in terms of power ranking. This is where champions with inhuman abilities shine. Most are well-trained warriors with a little bit of magic imbued in their character. The three assassins originating from the same clan in Zed, Akali, and Kennen all fall into this rank, and for good reason. They were all trained under the same masters under the same clan. They were all loyal students of the Kinku order, but one day Zed decided to master the secret dark arts and separate the order in two. Zed led one side of the Kinku with forbidden shadow arts, while Shen led the proper traditional routes that ninjas should be following. Zed did not receive any special blessing or extended life when he mastered the shadow arts, which is why he still ranks with all of his other ninja brethren. Some strange picks for this tier are Jhin and Katarina, because these two are clearly trained professionals, but they lack any magic or special enhancements. Jhin is a rogue artist who became obsessed with killing. His killing impulse became so notorious that the Council of Zune sent an envoy to the Kinku order to try and figure out who was killing all these people. After 4 years, Zed, Shen, and their master Kusho finally found and trapped Jhin while he was working as a stagehand. This serial killer was so proficient that it took the three most skilled members of the Kinku order 4 years to just track him down. Even after being caught and thrown into jail, Jin's past escapades were so notorious that he got himself funded by a mysterious benefactor. That's how Jhin is able to wield such advanced and superior weaponry, because this mysterious benefactor gives Jhin an almost limitless amount of money to work with. Does this make Jhin a sugar baby? I should be a sugar baby. Anyway, Katarina is in a similar boat as Jhin, but her backstory is far less dramatic. Katarina is the third best assassin known to Noxus after her own father and the champion talent. She, like Jhin, earns her ranking because of her immense skill that is sought out by people all across Runeterra. Now you might be wondering, what champions can rank up against professional killers? Well, the answer is a bunch of immortals that can dish out even more destruction. Amumu, Mundo, Evelynn, Galio, Olaf, Rammus, Senna, Tryndamere, and Varus are all immortal in some way or another. Amumu, Olaf, and Senna were cursed with their immortality, all from different sources. Amumu's is unknown, but Senna's is from Shadow Isle's mist, and Olaf was cursed to die on his bed peacefully. One of these curses is not like the other. Olaf's curse was designed to keep him on the battlefield in continuous fights. Meanwhile, creatures such as Galio, Rammus, and Evelynn were born immortal, or at least they haven't died yet. While the final three of the immortals, Tryndamere, Varus, and Mundo, were forced into their invincibility, Tryndamere was stabbed by Aatrox, a Darkin, who is an ascendant being that turned to ruthless slaughter after Shurima collapsed. Tryndamere being stabbed by Aatrox somehow transferred some of Aatrox's Darkin ability into Tryndamere, which he can access while unleashing his full rage. Mundo, meanwhile, was a science experiment that went horribly wrong. When Mundo was a young Zaun enforcer, he was carefree and said anything that came to his mind. One day, he managed to tick off his boss enough to have him sent to the Oswald Asylum. At this asylum, Mundo was experimented on until they managed to turn him purple and, more importantly, invincible. Being immortal is not the only way to earn the A ranking, though. A lot of these champions made it in based on their individual destructive power. Good examples of these destructive forces are Master Yi and Yasuo. Both Master Yi and Yasuo mastered the sacred arts of their respective villages and have to harness the power for good, but only at the right time. Both Master Yi and Yasuo have the capabilities of wiping out entire towns by themselves alongside several other A-tier champions. Singed, Galio, and Rammus also have similar destructive capabilities. However, all of these champions are still outshined by the S tiers. In the lowest S tier, we have Nasus, Renekton, Soraka, and Janna. And as you imagine, Janna and Soraka are on this list for very different reasons than Nasus and Renekton. These two are ascendant beings that directly got their divine blessing through the giant Cerium and Sundus when they were selected hundreds of years ago. Both Nasus and Renekton can grow their bodies by 30%, and Nasus's Q never stopped stacking since the day he was born, making him one of the hardest hitters in the game. On the other hand, Soraka and Janna were chosen on the S tier because of their nearly divine feats they accomplished individually. Janna is the literal embodiment of sailors asking for good winds on their travels. After years of sailors wishing for it, Janna spawned into existence, growing stronger every time somebody prayed for her blessing. And since Janna is real, most sailors end up praying to Janna for faster and safer travels. This ranks her in the S tier because of the range of people she needs to help across all the waters of Runeterra. Soraka is not a godly being like Janna, but is instead a celestial spirit who heals everyone she comes into contact with. Soraka is the S tier of healing champions for a reason, and her work has had her travel all across Runeterra in search of helping others. These acts of destruction or healing might be significant to local regions, but they lack the terraforming power of the S+ tier. For example, we've got Malphite, who is literally an old piece of a much larger weapon that was used in the ancient Runeterra wars. Malphite is so massive that in one of his lores, it claims he kills a bunch of void creatures inside his own body in order to help save some random citizen who was near the entrance of his mouth. Just Malphite walking around is enough to change the landscape of the land, and there's nothing sneaky about it. But even Malphite's great size and destruction pales in comparison to the powers of Pantheon and Aurelion Sol. The lore of Pantheon and Aurelion Sol are directly linked to one another because of events that happened thousands of years before Atreus was even born. Atreus is the name of the current Pantheon we all love and use today. Now, what is the position of Pantheon and how did it come to pass? Many centuries ago, while Aurelion Sol was traveling the cosmos and creating new stars, he came upon a tribe in Runeterra that looked up in wonder at the stars every night. This was the Targonian tribe. Aurelion Sol was so pleased to have people admire his work that he decided to show himself to the Targonian people. Out of respect and fear, the Targonian people created a magical helmet as an offering to Aurelion Sol. The great celestial being was so happy with the gift, and he took off into the cosmos. Unfortunately, the helmet Aurelion Sol received was not a gift at all, but instead a magical relic that would delete one of his stars if he disobeyed the Targonian people. You know what that is, gamers? That's blackmail! And the Targonian responsible for controlling Aurelion Sol's power was declared the Pantheon and received immense power and persuasion across Runeterra. This is why Pantheon is ranked the second highest amongst all those in League of Legends, because he, at his peak, could access a portion of Aurelion Sol's magic. There's a reason why his ultimate ability is called the Grand Starfall, after all. Now, Aurelion Sol is still clearly the undisputed highest-ranking S++ tier champion that will never be overthrown unless a Void Watcher enters the Rift. Woo! ProGuides Familia, we did it! That's going to be the final rankings for all the Wild Rift champions currently released in the game. Remember, this list is about lore, so seeing picks in unusual places is to be expected. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we can't wait to see you next time. Adios!